we are going to go wide receiver draft for next year. I went first on quarterbacks. You went first on running backs.
It's your turn.
So
it's your turn to go first.
It's my turn here. Wideouts. Again, who would you want on your team for the upcoming season? And there's so many good wideouts in this league to choose from. Could go in a million different places. Whew. All right, I'm going to actually go with somebody who didn't have the full season last year, but who I think if I had to go out and play in the park tomorrow, who I'd want on my team, I'm going to take Jamar Chase with my first pick. Over some really good options, but that's going to be
Jamar Chase, wide receiver 1. You want to explain why?
I'll tell you why. I mean, to me, I think it's the physicality to me that separates him. There's other great ones to choose from. You're talking about speed. You're talking about route runners. You're talking about guys that can run after the catch, guys that can go up and get the ball above the rim. I think he can do all those things, and I think the differentiator for me is that I just think he's a little more physical. He's more physical with the ball in his hands. He's going to be more physical for some of those contested catches. To me, I think he's that guy for me in terms of who I think is a pure number one. Third down, red zone, any situation. Everybody knows where the ball's going. You can't do anything about it.
And I think the thing about this list, DJ, is we have an opportunity to really define what a number one receiver is. I think sometimes people think that everyone is a number one or everyone has the skill set to be a number one. My estimation, number one receiver is a guy who can command the double team but continue to be productive while dealing with the double team. The number one receiver is the one that when you walk in the stadium, everyone knows the ball is going in his direction, and he still finishes the day with 8 catches, 100 yards, and those things. And it's a skill set where I would say, to be honest, I don't know if the number one receiver is always the fastest receiver, but he's an outstanding route runner, playmaker. He can do a bunch of different things. He can move the chains. Well, in our parlance, he can move the sticks.
There you go.
Make sure that it happens. And so the fact that Jamar Chase is a number one, I'll be honest. Like, this is funny because I just remember when he was coming out, like, man, he's like, can he do it? Because remember, he didn't play his last season. But to see how productive he's been, to see how dominant he's been, to me is really a testament to the work that he has put in and just how good he really is. And so you take Jamar Chase number one. How about I'm going to go with his former teammate at LSU as number two, and that's Justin Jefferson. And the conversation about Justin Jefferson to me is fascinating because when he was getting drafted, he was coming out. I'll never forget this. Jerry Sullivan, who to me is one of the godfathers at the wide receiver position when it comes to coaching them, he talked about, and I remember I might have had Justin Jefferson 5 on the list, right? And he's like, Buck, you're all wrong. You're all wrong. I was like, no, man, I think I got him right. He was like, I'm telling you, he is so much more than what you think. He can play outside. He can play inside. Even though Jamar Chase is there, he's like, this dude is the dog. He is the one that when it's on the line, you want to make sure you go to him. Justin Jefferson has been as good as advertised, better than advertised when he came into the league. Outstanding route runner, playmaker, can do an outside, inside, can win with a variety of different releases, has enough speed to create the separation to give you the big plays. And then down in the red zone, he has all the tricks to get open. I think people have seen the route that he ran on Stephon Gilmore last year where he ran a whip route and came back and just all of that. The kid is special, man. And you put him in any offense, he's going to find a way to be productive. So right now, you talk about Jamar Chase 1, give me Justin Jefferson, 1A, 1B, however you want to dub it. Those two guys, to me, at the top of the food chain.
Yeah, LSU goes 1 and 2, and I can't argue with that. I wouldn't argue with it. If you had the first pick and this was the order that you went, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, a little bit of a flavor thing, but both outstanding players. They go 1 and 2 here. So my second pick, again, I mean, this is not like there's some positions where you're like, this guy or that guy. Like I'm torn here. Yes. There's like 6 or 7 guys that are legit in this conversation as you look at it. But to me, I'm going to think about it from a team builder standpoint, and I'm going to think about it from a scouting report standpoint, an advanced scouting report, which we used to both have to work on back in the day. And I'm thinking about having to talk to your defensive coordinator and say, okay, if you're not scared of this guy, you need to be. You need to be scared of him because he is a problem. He's somebody that's going to be an issue. And that's why I'll go Tyreek Hill, because the game plan has to start when you're playing against the Miami Dolphins. We can't let that thing go over our head to this guy. And even when we don't do that, you're going to see Tua hit him with little slants and little quick hitters, and he's going to get you 15, 20, 40, 60, you name it. He can go get it after the catch. So to me, he's the most He'd be the receiver that I think is the most feared receiver in the NFL, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And DJ, his ascension to being one of the top wide receivers in the league, to me, is really a remarkable story. Because remember, he was more running back, more playmaker when you watched him coming out. He was a punt returner, gadget guy, first year in Kansas City. Kansas City made him the number one receiver before any of us envisioned him being a number one. And the work that he has done, not only to be the guy that is explosive and fast and those things, but he has become a very polished route runner.
Like 117 balls or whatever last year of 1,700 yards.
His stop-start quickness, his burst. And I'll be honest, I think he's scarier now than he ever was the first couple years in the league. His speed is real. His catch and run ability makes him a difference maker. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm going to go with Davante Adams with my second pick. And I'll go with Davante Adams because he is another one that is kind of self-made wide receiver, a guy who has mastered the art of creating separation with his routes. The way that he uses different paces and tempos throughout the early part of his routes to kind of keep defenders on his heels. The way that he wins consistently against press coverage. I think his last year, I can talk about, he was solid with the Raiders, but his last 2 years in Green Bay, when everyone knew Aaron Rodgers was going to find the way to get the ball to 17 and you still couldn't stop it, to me, that's when he went next level. So Davante Adams is the guy that I'm going to talk about near the top. You talk about those four guys that we have up there: Chase, Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Davante Adams. Look, if we put all those names in a hat and just randomly pick, you'd be happy with any of those guys being the number one receiver for your team.
Yeah, and this is again where I get a chance to maybe go off the reservation a little bit here. Maybe this isn't one that people would have in this spot because there are so many other good players to choose from. But I was doing, digging at some of these numbers to kind of go along with what you see in the tape. And this dude last year had a freaking unbelievably good year. And I feel like somehow it went under the radar, which I don't even know how that's possible considering the team that he plays for. CeeDee Lamb caught 107 balls last year. And when you look at, I went through some of the PFF stuff, explosives, right? So if we're looking at explosive plays, big plays, number one in the league, Tyreek Hill. That's not going to be a surprise. Number two, one ahead of Justin Jefferson was CeeDee Lamb. So you got 48 explosives out of him last year. And Dak, being a little bit up and down, coming back. I think CeeDee Lamb has a monster year. I remember how much we both loved him coming out because of the route running, because of the toughness, the physicality, the run after catch, which is excellent. I'm betting on a guy who's coming off of a really good year. I think he takes it to another level this year. So I'll go CeeDee Lamb with my third pick.
That's an interesting pick. And the thing about CeeDee Lamb that is remarkable, he had 24 catches over 20 yards. And DJ, it's one of those things that you talked about, people not really paying attention to how good he was and what he was able to do. I mean, you're talking about a tremendous playmaker on the perimeter. And you're right, Dak Prescott played with that broken thumb. And so it impacted CeeDee Lamb's numbers. He's a good get. Now, I'm stuck here because this is tough, man. You talk about
lots
just
of
how
options,
many receivers. Lots of options. I'm going to continue to go with the old man. And so I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs. And Stephon Diggs has been in the league for a while. You saw the impact that he had immediately on Josh Allen when he joined the Buffalo Bills. He continues to be a special playmaker at the position because he's such a creative route runner. 11 touchdowns last year. The guy consistently gets open. He can do it in a few different ways, but he is big time when it comes to being a number one. You have to commit a double team to him. If not, he'll wear you out just with his tempo, his pace, his ability to just get open in space. Big time playmaker. So I'm going to take him with my third pick.
Yeah. His numbers are excellent too. When you look at a lot of the other stuff, I was doing it, kind of some research on the NGS stuff, on the next gen stat stuff earlier in the week, and just playing around with different receiver things. And I put in a couple different stats where I was looking for, okay, give me guys that lined up outside. So take away all the inside stuff. Red zone, like targets and touchdowns on the outside. So you're winning on the outside, which is difficult to do when the space gets shrunk down like that. Stephon Diggs, he had ridiculous numbers inside the red zone on the outside. Like that's real deal stuff, man. So no issues with that one there. All right, my fourth pick, I'm going to go AJ Brown.
Man. Yeah. Gosh.
I thought about him. To me, I was kind of going back with him and CeeDee Lamb, but AJ Brown, here's a number for you as we sort through some of these stats I thought was interesting. When you look at after the catch, Buck, missed tackles forced. Number one, Debo, right, by a significant margin, who we haven't got to yet. Garrett Wilson was number 2. He was tied at number 2, though, with A.J. Brown, who was 4 over Jamar Chase. Now, Jamar Chase missed some games, so he probably would have been a little bit higher. But A.J., we know what he can do over the top, going and getting the ball. We saw it with big plays. But to me, it's what he does, catch and run, that makes him special. It's what he was coming out of college. It's what he continues to be. He's a quarterback's best friend because he gives you easy completions and turns them into explosive plays.
DJ, it's so funny because I think he's still one of the most slept on wide receivers in the National Football League. So you talked about the next gen stats and the stuff that's below the surface, but I'm going to just look at the regular stats. 1,496 yards. He had 11 touchdowns. He had 23 receptions of 20-plus yards. But I think the stat that is surprising, because when you look at A.J. Brown, I don't think most people see him as a burner. He has 6 receptions of over 40 yards. And so you combine that big play element with the fact that he had the second most yak yards by a wide receiver. Justin Jefferson was first. He was second. He had 548. So this guy can do it as a, look, man, we talk about 3-level player, short, intermediate, deep. He can do all those things, size, physicality, toughness. He has that. Man, really good player. I think I just think people just really sleep on how good and how talented, how impactful he is as a player.
Yeah, we've got some good options left here, man. Like this, there's a lot of good wideouts that aren't gonna make this 10 here.
And there are a lot of people that are gonna be mad at us because you can talk about like different stuff, and we're trying not to. I feel like somehow I got started with all the old men, but I'm gonna take a young guy. I'm gonna go with. Okay. I said I was gonna go with it. I guess I can go with Garrett Wilson now. I'm gonna go with Garrett Wilson.
Wow. Yeah, there you go. You talk yourself into that one. Nice.
Okay, because we'll see if you pick the guy next. I'm making a note to myself to talk about this guy because this guy has quietly kind of set an NFL record. But like Garrett Wilson, DJ, we've talked about in the last couple of years how we kind of made the move that we wanted the route runner, the craftsman, the skill guy that understands how to run routes, timing, and those things more so than the explosive athlete, because over time we've seen the craftsmen are the ones that get open over and over and over again. Garrett Wilson has already shown that ability. And I am really surprised that as a slender frame guy, that he was able to have so much success right away. Well, now you put him with a quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, who knows how to get the ball to those guys who understand how to get open on their route running ability and creating space. And so Garrett Wilson's numbers should explode this year. To me, he is a really sleek, slender number 1 receiver, but he's one that you have to respect because if you leave him one-on-one, he's going to find a way to get open and get and work you over. And the fact that he did it last year with poor quarterback play, what could the numbers look like this year? I think you better get ready for some mind-boggling numbers from Garrett Wilson if Aaron Rodgers is able to stay healthy.
Yeah, he's a 1, man. He's a true 1. And there are a lot of other good options when we look at what's left here. You think about, we talked about Debo. He hasn't gone. Jalen Waddle. You look at the numbers. Amon-Ra St. Brown caught 1 million balls. T. Higgins, who we love. DK Metcalf. We know what the physicality that he brings to the table. I think you get Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett types are just, premier route runners. I mean, Terry McLaurin, Mike Williams, you can go on and on. D-Hop, we'll see what he does, where he lands, what he looks like this year. But, Buck, I've been watching, just finished up the Ted Lasso series, so watch the series finale on that. One of the things that he always said on there was you got to be a goldfish. You got to have short-term memory, right? You got to be able to change things. I think we're being goldfish in this regard. We have a wide receiver who almost had 2,000 yards a year ago. He was hurt last year. He only played 7 games. Cooper Kupp had over 1,900 yards, 140 whatever catches he had with a healthy season and a healthy, quarterback situation. Went on and was in the Super Bowl and was, uncoverable on the biggest moments on the biggest stage to win a championship. So maybe even feels slighted that he's still out there at this point in time. But I've got Cooper Kupp coming back healthy and expecting a monster season from him.
Man, that's so funny, DJ, because you're right. It is so okay. So we started the conversation off on the podcast about 7-on-7 culture. I would say that what we're seeing now is the result of the 7-on-7 culture for the last decade. The wide receivers that are coming to the National Football League have never been more prepared and more ready to play than at any other time in National Football League history. We're seeing these guys have instant impacts, and the reason they can have impact is because the number of reps that they've taken throughout their high school and collegiate careers has made them ready to be stars immediately in the National Football League. And so Cooper Kupp is a guy that I had a chance to watch. I had a chance not only watch him kind of grow, but I had a chance to watch him teach young guys. So it makes sense for him to be there. Now, you talked about being a goldfish and how quickly we forget things. I think this year we will be reminded how special Calvin Ridley is. And
Ooh,
I know
wow. I had already forgotten about him. You brought him back.
I'm being a bit of a homer, but I had an opportunity last week to go watch him. And I am telling you, DJ, he is every bit as good as a top 5 wide receiver that we have seen. Route running ability, hands, playmaking. He has all of that. I think people forget how good he was having to replace Julio Jones when Julio Jones got hurt and then having to anchor that. I know he's been away from 2 years, but I think by the end of 2023, we'll be talking about Calvin Ridley being one of the premier wide receivers in the league. And he has a quarterback in Trevor Lawrence that he's going to help go from good to great. Calvin Ridley's a top 5 guy. That's why I'm taking him with my last pick.
I like it. So you can't just go chalk here. We got to go off a little bit, and that's what we did. I think I probably went CeeDee Lamb earlier than people expected. You brought Calvin Ridley back into the discussion. So, I mean, again, still a bunch of good guys that we didn't pick here, but that just tells you where the wide receiver position is. It's healthy, right?
I know, because Mike Evans has 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and I couldn't put him in there. He was one of the guys that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be so mad. But it's not a lifetime achievement award. We're talking about here and now. I think this list with these young guys, man, the young guys certainly understand how to get open, and they have made it happen from day one. I am really impressed with the receivers that continue to come in the league. It's the reps, man. It's the reps from 7-on-7, club, scholastic, however you want to do it. They're catching the ball early and often, and because of that, they're coming to the league more polished than ever.